This afternoon, we are going to be learning about some real life cases and what has been going on in our country. We've got some very good stories, interesting stories to listen to. Normal mothers who have been fighting against this insidious sex education. So without further ado, Kat Watkins is going to be introducing everybody now for the next part. She's going to be interviewing everyone. Now, this is our very last gig that we call Kat Watkins because she's getting married in March. Okay, so I'll pass you on to Kat. Thank you, Kat.
Whoops. All right, then. Hello, everyone. It's good to see everyone here. It's a really good turnout. Right, so first off, we got two mums with us today. And the first one, Chels, do you want to come on up, love? And Darren to sit with her, who helped her through this case as well. And I know Chelsea is a bit nervous, but you're absolutely fine, love. Come and have a seat. Give him a round of applause, everybody. Thank you for coming up. Obviously, Darren is sat with Chelsea because Chelsea has gone through, I would say, that was it the last 2 years, Chelsea? 2 years.
It was a year ago, and we started a year.
Yeah. So 2 years this case has been going on. And Chelsea's son at the time would have been 5. He's now 7. So Paul mentioned earlier about the court case that we had to go through. And within that court case, there were sections where you could disapply in certain circumstances if there's a special needs child, or the head teacher can disapply at their discretion. So I'm just going to so basically, if you just start from the beginning. Obviously, Chelsea, you found out about the RSE and you were concerned for your son being special needs. And obviously the content, you'd seen it and you were worried. So there's a lot that went on in this case, I got to be honest, in terms of massive corruption, I would say, really, all the way through. So they're just going to talk about... We're not going to go through all that. Don't worry, we're not going to go through all that. But it is just there just as a point of reference to show you what we actually had to do. So obviously this was the case. This was the tribunal. We went to tribunal stage in the end. Just before that, though, Charles, would you mind just giving a little rundown about what it got before we got to the tribunal, like what led to it?
Yes. So my little boy is mentally disabled, and I'd already been following Kim and Kath and the team. I knew what was coming, and I went to he had an IDP meeting, which is individual development plan meeting, which is what all disabled children are entitled to. And I asked them if he could be removed from some of the bits of the sex education that were inappropriate for him. At the time, they said yes, and then 2 weeks later, they acted as if that whole meeting hadn't even happened and told me that I wasn't allowed to remove him from any of the RSE lessons, and it was mandatory, and there was nothing they could do about it. It was just...
Have we got a slide for that, Dar? Have you got a slide for...
Well, I can pull that up, though, anyway.
Okay.
It's no problem.
Yeah.
So that was when I went to Kim, then, who introduced me to Darren. And then we played letter tennis, didn't we, Dar, for a long time. And I was just getting complete refusal to remove him from any of the content at all.
Well, they were basically making you out to be a bit of a crazy parent,
Protective, none of the things were going to be taught that I was saying that I wanted him taken out of. They were saying that they had no legal grounds to take him out. They acted as if the legislation didn't exist that we had given.
Yeah, so
off the mic, Dar.
So the Curriculum and Assessment Wales Act 2021, we've got a recording where they're actually saying, well, maybe that legislation doesn't actually apply in Wales, even though it's the Curriculum and Assessment Wales Act. But we built, and like I say, that was the case that we put in. Obviously, we're not going to read from it. We've picked out about 10...
Microphone.
We've picked out about 10 slides just to keep it brief. And going back to what Paul said, where people need to be brave, I just want to put in that Chelsea is one of the bravest people.
Yes, she absolutely is.
Some of the slides will demonstrate sort of how everybody is now against her. But again, advice from Paul, the people who stand up to them are the ones who won't get punished at the end of the day. No, we're through that now. But no, one of the bravest people I met, and still going.
Yeah, still going.
Still fighting.
So what's the...
I know, yeah.
Right. So let's have a look at these slides, what you've got here for us.
This was the first official refusal letter that we had back from the local authority.
Microphone.
No,
This was the first official refusal response that we had back from the local authority. And there's certain bits of it, it just fried my brain for weeks. I was reading it over and over again. It was nonsense, particularly the third paragraph. The legal advice received in relation to the RSE curriculum confirms that the Education Tribunal for Wales does not have jurisdiction in relation to this. We hadn't even gone to the Education Tribunal Wales. It was just nonsense, and we told them such. Right, and we've only got 15 minutes, haven't we?
Yeah.
Hold
So,
it close to your mouth.
whilst this was going on, because everything was taking time. So then Chelsea, under a different section of the legislation, put a request into the headmaster, and this is where it gets really devious.
Yeah.
Head mistress.
Yeah. So it was section 42.
Section 42.
Section 42 of the Wales Act. So the head teacher has the right to withdraw the children from the RSE content. But as you can see here, she wrote me a letter back to say that they had no legal ground to remove him from any of the content at all. But we found out, if you go to slide
so
4.
that middle paragraph. No, go on. This came in a... Sorry. This was accidentally came to us. We thought that this originally was from the legal department because they kept telling us they were waiting for legal advice, and that letter would imply that they had sought legal advice and given us legal advice. This email here, as you can see from the bottom, is from the head of governor support, nothing to do with the legal team. And the letter you just previously seen is a copy and paste of his middle paragraph. Dear Miss Downes, I can confirm that the following advice from the local authority and their response to your complaints, blah, 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 is there's no legal grounds to do so. So they were spinning a yarn. They hadn't sought legal advice at all. They were just telling porky pies. Here again, we've got...
Microphone there.
Oh, no, go on. Do you want to do something? I'm doing all the talking.
That's okay. I don't mind. Yeah, this is the Central South Consortium. So it basically, we're just demonstrating how everybody just buckled down together, the local authority, the school, the governing bodies, all of them were just trying desperately to tell me whatever they could, basically.
To know, it's not
to make
allowed
me
to,
believe that I had no leg to stand on and that my son wasn't going to be removed from any of the lesson content.
And back to what Kim said earlier, where the responsibility is on the head, that where I've highlighted the middle paragraph. This is from the Central South Consortium, who somebody else in here mentioned when they were speaking earlier as well. This is something I imagine teachers would use their professional judgment and expertise to do. Well, none of them have been trained in the psychological portions of gender and so on and so forth. So how they can use their judgment, I do not know. Welsh Government, you want to do this one?
This email, we weren't supposed to read this. So what happened was it was a mistake on their part. We got sent an email that was supposed to go to their legal team by accident, which worked out pretty well for us.
They threatened us to delete
Microphone.
They threatened us to delete it, and we told them in no uncertain terms that this was now evidence and we were keeping it. They went to their legal team. They went to their legal team to seek further advice and came back with nothing other than crickets. So Go on. No, go on.
So, so this is from the Welsh government. So this is how far and how hard they tried to stop my son being taken out of this lesson. So this is the Welsh government, basically in a nutshell, telling was it the CSE or the local authority, the school, all of them, that in layman's terms, basically you can remove your children from the lesson, but tell mum this instead, and then spin me a yarn, basically.
It says there, look, suggest the lines below instead. Thanks.
And this is the Welsh government saying this.
They actually, so in the Isherwood case, which Paul fought, she quotes case law, and that's what they wrongly quoting with the hour a week, the piano lesson. That's just totally not what the case law was about. They misquoting that case law to fit their narrative, basically.
But that was obviously sent to them by accident.
So that was the Welsh government.
To their detriment, but this is the sort of thing that we're dealing with.
And if you keep at them, you tend to get all of these documents, sometimes intentionally, sometimes by accident. But, you know, the likes of Chelsea, she's like a dog with a bone. And we've turned up some wonderful stuff. In all fair, we have. And still to this day. Right. This one is...
Oh, yeah.
Which one is this? Yeah. Oh, right. This one is, this is, again, the Central South Consortium. They're just saying that they're going to have to synthesise a response for Chelsea. You know, to me, you can argue this, it's a bit ambiguous, but to me, to synthesise something is to just make it up. Again, the Central South Consortium, these advise a lot of the schools, the local authorities, and therefore the schools in South Wales. They're quite a big organisation. We have John. Okay. So this is where they're getting a bit nervous now, where the parent has threatened the school with legal action. They're all passing it around. You can see from lots of emails, Chelsea is the enemy. They didn't believe that she was going to be taking legal action. And this, I mean, we've got hordes of stuff here. You know, we've just tried to pick a small food to fit into a quarter of an hour. This one.
This is terrible. This one is terrible.
No, this one. Kim likes this one as well. This is the frankly pointless email. This is from the local authority, the Vale of Glamorgan Council. Hopefully, continued discussions with mum will make mum see that such an approach is frankly pointless. Bit frustrating, the Welsh Government have pointed her in this direction, as it's likely to waste everybody's time.
Frankly, can I just say, frankly pointless. This was a 5-year-old boy with a severely mental disability, and they say it's frankly pointless. And they didn't know that mum was going to see all this, but that's besides the point. This is what they're saying behind closed doors. It's absolutely disgusting.
Just to slip in at this point, if any of you are unaware, subject access requests are one of the best tools you can have in your toolkit.
Definitely.
They're free now as well.
Yeah, you used to have to pay a tenner, but they're free now.
To everyone for fun, make them earn their money. This year, so the dissent against Chelsea goes to the health board.
Yeah.
And again, this is kind of clarifying. So one of the first things which we've done with Chelsea, and this is another thing for your toolkit, there is nothing illegal about recording meetings with anybody.
They don't like it, but it's not illegal.
I had to start recording because we found out very early on that they were spinning. They were saying that I was saying things that I wasn't. They were saying that they weren't saying things that they were. So I had to start recording just for my protection, really, and to prove that I was telling the truth. So this is where all the recording came from.
And it became invaluable. And again, that turns into a legal argument in itself, because they again go away to seek legal advice and come back with crickets. The only issue that we've had in recent times, and it's not Chelsea, where you can't record, a judge ruled that in regard to...
It was a different case.
It was a different case, but they weren't allowed to record with the kids there. But that's irrelevant. Generally speaking, we haven't found any real stop to us being able to record. In Chelsea's case, we actually got the transcripts of 3 or 4 covert recordings accepted into court as evidence. I wouldn't, again, I wouldn't recommend that approach because the judge could have easily refused.
But he didn't in
So we
this
kind
case,
of
yeah.
jumped through hoops. But if you present the case law, then you can actually get covert recordings into court. But after that, she just proudly walks in and puts her phone
Where I go now, my phone's straight
And they
bang
know.
on the table. Yeah.
and she records everyone and everything, and they behave.
Yeah.
It's a protection for you because they
Definitely
behave.
is safeguarding, isn't it?
So that's, and on the bottom, so this is the health board when they found out that Chelsea was recording. That bottom line, and I don't think it's why Chelsea wanted this slide in there, but it's quite relevant to me. Thank you, I agree completely. I am very wary of her way of dealing with things.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
They didn't want to go to the meetings with her anymore, but they have to. It's their job, it's what we pay them for.
Yeah.
This then, so with regards to the meeting that Chelsea spoke about, which they denied happened, and there was a big portion of that on the case, and they refused to look at it as well, funnily enough, but here is the notes from that meeting where it says, agreement for Chelsea's son to be removed from RSE lessons, and the two people advised this was appropriate due to developmental needs and behaviours that he displays, such as being a cat. Believe this behaviour of becoming a cat occurs when he... So they agreed this. This was written in the notes on the council. They denied that was ever said. Their defence for this in the tribunal hearing was that doesn't matter that it was said because it's not a full minute.
I don't even,
I
don't even know. That was just nonsense.
That is, it's just nonsense. I mean, you know.
Yeah, grasping.
So just to put that in there, I think we're doing all right in time, aren't we?
Yeah, we are that.
And then we've got, and I'm going to let Chelsea talk here because these are just some of the favoured paragraphs from the decision. The first ones are just pointing out. So
is this from the tribunal?
This is the tribunal decision. So we actually got to the Education Tribunal Wales. We had a hearing. This is the decision. We'll tell you what has actually happened since. But if I do the first bit, you can do your favourite bits then if you want to say. So, and this is regards the being able to have the child removed from RSE, because they'll all say, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't. So in paragraph 11, whilst the LA had conceded that it could disapply the curriculum by utilising section 41 of the Curriculum and Assessment Act, as suggested by Ms Downes, it considered it should not do so. And in paragraph 24, the judge states, accordingly, it seems to us the LA is right to concede that the RSE curriculum can be disapplied by it. So
yeah.
This, funnily enough, on the Tribunal Wales Act, they publish their decisions on their website, and I checked the other day, and they're all on there except this one. Ironically,
it's not on
it
there.
was March the 14th last year, this was handed down, and they haven't published this one, but there is more proof there that they can disapply the curriculum.
Yeah, so they'll tell you no, but actually
They all
you
say
absolutely
no, but they
can.
And that is also stated in the Isherwood case as well, and it's stated in legislation, section 41 and 42. Go on, you can do the last bit.
And then my favourite paragraph then, which is paragraph 42, is that they've agreed that the school can remove Nikki from any content that I find inappropriate. We have to have a meeting every single term. I think, am I the only person
I think
in
you
Wales
you might be. Kim
that actually sees
Yeah.
the lesson content?
Before.
Yeah.
Have you been in any lessons?
He's been taken out of every single thing that I've asked them to take him out of so far.
Got him out.
So I don't know what it's going
And
to be like
you've
after this
also,
now.
Charles, you've also safeguarded a whole class or a whole year group
Yeah,
on two
yeah.
occasions,
Yeah.
which the parents of those children would know nothing about, to be honest, because Chelsea gets to see the resources first and brings those up to the teachers in two occasions. They've agreed with Chelsea that it is dangerous and therefore they haven't taught it at all. So she safeguarded the whole thingy.
I think we're nearly done. But this goes back to something Kim said as well, where there is case law in England where it's not in the public interest for the parent to see the curriculum or the lesson plan before school. If you look at paragraph 41 in Chelsea's case, we, obviously the tribunal, have therefore concluded that the IDP, that's his Independent Development Plan, I almost said his name, should specify that the proposed curriculum is sent to Miss Downes at the start of each half term. So that is in defiance of English case law as well. She's achieved massive...
Yeah. Is there any more slides on there? Just to finish? No, that's it. Do you want to say anything, Charles? No, just to finish off?
Absolutely amazing. You guys really are. I would never, ever have done any of this. I'd have been way too scared to challenge anyone if I didn't have you guys behind me.
Oh, bless you. Well, you took it there. You took it there. You're the brave one.
I know. And again, I have mentioned it, but we do various things for various people, and one of the most frustrating things, so many people just want us to do everything for them. Exactly. Chelsea does everything, and she, like I said, when I say she's the dog with a bone, she's absolutely awesome, and we wouldn't have got this far if, as Paul said, she doesn't challenge, and she doesn't fight, and she doesn't make herself a pain in the backside. But these results speak for themselves. As far as we're aware, she's the only mum to get her child out of RSE lessons.
In the UK. In the UK. There you go, then, you two. Thank you very much. Thank you. Give them a round of applause again, guys.
Sorry.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Right, moving on, we have got another mum that we'll be speaking to about a case that most of you are probably aware of anyway. But just before that, we've got Dr. Liz Evans, who is, I think she's at the Great Resist today, so she couldn't make it. So she's done a... Oh, sorry, she's up in Scotland in the COVID inquiry, so she couldn't make it. So she's done a short video. So I'm just going to read... a bio from her. So she's a lifelong, by Dr. Elizabeth Evans, MA. She's got an MBBS Hons, lifelong Christian, wife and mother of 4 children aged 15 to 22 years. Her training and degrees, medical sciences and physiology from Gonville and, is it Chaos College, Cambridge University, clinical medicine at Imperial College London. She's a former NHS doctor, practiced as a doctor for a few years, then deregistered and moved into complementary medicine. And she is the co-founder of CEO of UK Medical Freedom Alliance. So some of you will know this anyway. Set up in October 2020. We're a group of healthcare professionals, scientists and lawyers campaigning for an individual's right to informed consent, bodily autonomy and medical choice to be upheld in all circumstances. UK MFA are the leading UK voice on medical ethics and have written over 60 open letters to policy and decision makers, regulators and government. So I'm just going to play, I know that obviously she's dealt with a lot of the propaganda that's gone on in schools. So I'm basically just going to play this short video for you before we get on to the next mum. So I hope I can do this right. Please work.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to Kim and her team for inviting me to speak at this important conference. I'm sorry I can't join you in person, as I'm up in Edinburgh today doing a presentation at the Scottish People's COVID Inquiry. So I've recorded this short presentation to alert you to an insidious power grab by the state, who is seeking to usurp a parent's rightful place regarding their children's healthcare decisions. So I am a former NHS doctor who now works in complementary medicine. My strong Christian faith underpins my belief in the sanctity and dignity of every human life. I have been a passionate campaigner on health and ethics for well over a decade. In October 2020, I co-founded the UK Medical Freedom Alliance to challenge unethical COVID policies. We campaign on issues relating to medical ethics. And here I am with some of the People's Vaccine Inquiry team in September 2022, delivering an open letter to the Prime Minister Liz Truss, calling for a halt to the COVID vaccine rollout to children. So the state is threatening parental authority over healthcare decisions for their children in several ways, including the increasing medicalisation of schools as a setting for public health measures. The NHS has been directing propaganda and fear-mongering at children. And the NHS is even seeking to deal directly with children, cutting parents out of the picture. So first, let's look at the increasing medicalisation of schools as a setting for vaccination and other public health measures. Most of us will have received 1 or 2 vaccines at school, usually given by the school nurse who knew you. However, as a parent of 4 children, I have personally witnessed a marked increase in visits to schools by NHS vaccination teams over the last few years, and a marked increase in the number of vaccines offered. Schools should be a place to deliver education to a child, not healthcare. It's not an appropriate place to administer vaccines, especially by medical professionals who don't know the individual children or their medical histories. A child's own GP or practice nurse are far better placed to perform this role. Giving vaccines in a school inevitably compromises confidentiality and privacy. Pupils are acutely aware which children in their class have not taken a particular vaccine, which can be a source of great stress and shame for the unvaccinated. Without their parents for support and protection, children are highly susceptible to peer pressure and the opinions of their teachers, feeling under pressure to follow the crowd. The use of Gillick competence, which allows a child under 16 to consent to vaccination in the absence of parental consent, is a serious concern and open to abuse. All these factors create a coercive and unsafe environment that is completely inappropriate for medical treatment. So is this for the benefit of the children, or is there a hidden agenda? In January last year, we discovered this disturbing policy briefing from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine on school-age immunisation services in England, known as SACE, lobbying for the increased use of schools to promote and meet vaccine targets. This briefing calls for all schools to be required by law to support SACE in their vaccine delivery, including providing space on site, a dedicated staff member, access to parent data, dissemination of material, and even allocated time in the curriculum. And this to be enforced by Ofsted and local authorities, which is highly coercive. Schools must retain their independence and be allowed to make autonomous decisions as to whether they wish to be involved in state-run public health programmes, based on their assessment of what is in the best interest of the children in their care. I'm sure you will not be surprised to learn that this hijacking of schools is being driven by powerful vested interests. On digging deeper, we discovered that the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, who produced the briefing, is closely linked with the Vaccine Confidence Project, the VCP. And the funders and partners of VCP include pharmaceutical companies, such as Merck, AstraZeneca and GlaxoSmithKline, who stand to profit from any increase in vaccine uptake. Therefore, the briefing is not a neutral document, but is funded by powerful vested interest whose business models involve getting needles into the arms of as many children as possible. With schools being given an active role in both promoting and delivering the vaccination programme, the line between education and indoctrination is blurring. The policy briefing advocates for the teaching of accurate information and providing appropriate educational materials that promote vaccine confidence. In other words, children being taught what to think and not how to think. And indeed, teaching on vaccines and vaccine ideology creep into many parts of the curriculum, from nursery to A-levels. There are thousands of vaccine learning resources online for teachers and schools. I found a book on vaccines aimed at babies, a reading comprehension on the rise of the anti-vaxxers, a biology lesson task to create a leaflet for a doctor's surgery to encourage vaccination, and a biology lesson discussion on whether we are morally required to get vaccinated. Whether you are for or against vaccination, I hope you agree that this material is powerful corporate propaganda and should therefore have no place in a school. Over the last 5 years, we have witnessed the extreme power and influence of the pharmaceutical industry. Vaccinating all healthy children is a lucrative business model. With such powerful vested interests lobbying for more and more access to our children, it is surely time to draw a line and take all healthcare out of schools and back into general practice where it belongs. We have even seen incentivisation and advertising of vaccines directly to children, involving the healthcare system and pharmaceutical companies working together for mutual benefit. In June 2020, the NHS ran this superhero COVID vaccine advert, directly targeting children aged 5 to 11 years. Although sent to their parents, the poster directly addressed children and was designed in the style of a children's party invitation, with cartoon superhero branding, large writing, eye-catching colours, and bright advertising slogans. For the NHS to be directly targeting young children under 12 to encourage them to take a novel medical treatment and in such a coercive way is completely abhorrent. This approach is not reserved for COVID vaccines. On the left is a flyer for a GP practice's annual Peppa Pig flu clinic, with promises of party food, soft play and other kids' activities as a fun setting to receive their flu vaccine. And in 2025, the unethical practice continues. This vaccine promotion on the right was sent to parents, offering them a £10 gift voucher in exchange for making an appointment for their child to have a flu vaccine. This is in complete violation of laws on informed consent, which outlaw coercion. And this appalling case was reported just last week. Moderna was fined the paltry sum of £44,000 by the regulator for offering teddy bears and certificates to children who enrolled in their COVID jab trial, which breached 4 clauses of the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industries Code of Practice. And finally, we come to the NHS seeking to deal directly with children, bypassing parents altogether. We were horrified to learn that the NHS is now sending letters directly to children by post. This letter was sent to a child about to turn 13, informing them that they can now make their own health decisions, including making appointments or seeing a doctor or nurse alone. If you have a quick read, I'm sure you will be as outraged as we were at the content. And this letter is the worst example of NHS overreach we have seen. It was sent by a GP practice for the attention of a 10-year-old child and shared with us by their concerned parent. I'll give you a moment to have a look at it. I'm sure you will agree that no child should be subjected to direct approaches from a GP practice regarding their medical care. It is deeply sinister. These letters raise several red flags and serious safeguarding concerns. Firstly, it is completely unacceptable for any adult to contact other people's children or attempt to involve them in adult processes and decisions. To suggest that a child of 10 shares their personal contact details or travels alone to the practice to fill in forms that they surely won't fully comprehend is surely a child protection issue. stating that the child's wish for confidentiality would always be respected unless there is a risk of serious harm, is very alarming. The secrecy of communications between the child and GP practice would be a red flag in all other interactions between a child and unrelated adult. Removing parents' details from the child's record and requiring a child to opt in to consent to parental involvement means parents could find themselves unable to access medical care for their child. It is obvious that children under 16 don't have the skills or knowledge to make complex medical decisions alone, without parental support and input. The burden of responsibility of making their own health decisions in secrecy would cause huge stress and anxiety. The UKMFA sent an open letter to the managing partner of Unity Health, who sent the letter to the 10-year-old in February last year. This letter is published on our website. We asked her to respond as a matter of urgency to the safeguarding concerns raised, but to date we have had no response. It is unclear whether this sort of practice is confined to a few rogue GP practices and NHS trusts, or whether it is a more established national NHS policy. But it should be a massive wake-up call to parents. It is abundantly clear that our children are being targeted in a predatory way and need our protection. This constitutes a direct attack by the state through the NHS on the family, threatening the right of parents to make healthcare decisions for their own children. The UK Medical Freedom Alliance advocate for the implementation of the following guidelines. Firstly, medical discussions, decisions and interventions for children should only happen in the privacy of a consultation with their own GP or practice nurse. And secondly, that child should always be accompanied by a parent. The healthcare professional should discuss risks and benefits in an open and non-coercive way, and the decision made by parents should be accepted and respected. We have a moral and ethical duty as a society to protect children from harm and exploitation. Parents must stand firm and protect their children from the nanny state and big pharma interests. Thank you for listening, and please do visit our website to explore our work and campaigns. And we are always grateful for donations, however small, which help us to continue to fight for you and your children's right to informed consent and medical choice. Thank you.
Really important video there from Liz Evans with the propaganda, and it is, serious. So from one brave mum to another brave mum, give Maggie a round of applause, please, guys. Now, Maggie, have a seat, love. Bottle of water if you want it. So many of you would have already heard about this case. It was a recent case where they tried to force a 15-year-old, the NHS tried to force a mastectomy on a 15-year-old young girl. So we needed to fight this one because it was horrendous, to be honest. So if we just go back to the beginning. So Mag, at the beginning, obviously when your daughter came to you, she was, 14 at the time?
Yeah, 14 and a couple of months.
So it was about a year and a half ago, was it? Yeah. About a year and a half ago. So what happened there, Mag?
For a few weeks, my daughter had problems with her breast. She didn't tell me about it because she's very personal. She likes to keep things to herself. I do speak to my children, but sometimes with problems like that, they don't want to come to you because they want to worry. But she went to her sister, who is 21, and explained to Kira, and Kira come and told me, and I took her to the doctors as there was some issues with the breast, some bleeding and some, other things happening, and we were referred then to the Landoc Breast Centre. We got there, and after the first appointment, she was asked to do a biopsy. Now, bear in mind, she was 14 at the time. She wasn't happy to have the biopsy, but she was reassured by the consultant that it was going to be no pain. And, after it then, they could find out what it is and go from there. And then it wasn't until further on that my daughter had come to me and said that the problem that we have, she didn't feel right as she was in the right place. So things had to be questioned. So that's when then I got after we'd been to the hospital, the consultants which we were seeing, there was a lot of bullying going on. The reason why I was saying, where my daughter's a bit personal, she doesn't like to speak a lot for herself. She'd shut down, so I'd done the talking, and I was classed as a coercive and giving
Supportive
parent. And they issued the local authority on me because I wouldn't agree with the decision. So she went and had the biopsy, and it came back as a non-cancerous fibroadenoma, which we were happy about because we thought with lumps being in breast, I wasn't aware of, the problems. I was thinking could be breast cancer. I'd done my research then and realised that a lot of women and girls do get these fibroadenomas, and they are, they're common. So we went from there then, and from that time, we've had such a hard time through the hospital of the bullying, coercive behaviour, the threats, the mention of cancer. Told her that she would rather have keep her breast there than having no breast at all. And that's when another local authority was put on me. Altogether, there was 6 applications put through care orders to have my children removed from my care because I wouldn't force my daughter for surgery.
Yeah, to a lump that wasn't...
it was benign.
It was benign. It was non-cancerous. And one of the surgeons actually did scare your daughter a little bit, didn't she, by suggesting it's cancer. They were talking the mastectomy. Now, telling a 15-year-old girl that, she's going to lose her breast is torturous anyway, But, this is when we decided to go to another consultant then, Mag, wasn't it?
Yeah, what had happened
a different
then,
consultant.
What had happened, my daughter decided she didn't want to go back to Landoc. After a few weeks of me having to cancel appointments, every appointment that I cancelled because she didn't want to go, I had to rearrange another appointment only to keep them off our back, but just keep taking those appointments so it still feels like we're going. But I had an issue with my daughter of not wanting to go from being scared from the first consultant. So when we'd had the chat, I'd said to my girl, let's go and see somebody else. Let's get a second opinion. So we decided to go through Landoc again, and we were given another consultant, which I thought would have been a bit more caring. And with her being 15 then at the time, she would have given her a bit more support and helped her feel a bit more ease at it because it's been there for a while. But it made things worse because this one was even worse than the first one. They were still using the coercive behaviour. She got another consultant coming in. It went from a fibroadenoma non-cancerous to cancer to mastectomy bras. And, we just wanted to get out of there. It was just, horrific. It was hard for me to take as an adult. And, God knows what Ruby was feeling. We just went through, it was just such a hard time.
And at the same time, obviously, you had the local authority with trying with the interim, and not only to take
my daughter, which
both
had
of them.
the issue, they wanted to take my younger daughter, which is
the
12.
younger sister.
They were taken out of school by local authority and bullied and questioned about my family, of how we live and who their father is. And, we need to know this information, and practically harassing my children as well. They didn't go to school all through December for it because they were petrified of being taken from my property or removed from school. So I kept them home. I had the education on my board then because their attendance dropped. That wasn't my problem. That was because local authority poked their noses in and made my children scared.
Yeah.
You know, she was already petrified of going to school because it happened in school when that issue started. The T-shirt was covered in blood. It was a shock. She hasn't been doing well in school for the last, I'd say, year. Her education has gone down. You know, it's just been a nightmare for us all. We've just, as a family, we've suffered from being bullied into something, pushing pressure on me to force my daughter into something that's her body and it's her choice.
And we had to, you know, go into, because obviously I came in with you to the, we ended up in the Royal Courts of Justice.
So, Kath's jumping there into the court. So, what has happened from when Maggie was experiencing the bullying and the threats from local authority? They actually almost did get Maggie to agree to a biopsy, and that biopsy was booked for the Wednesday. I happened to get my hands on the court papers in the meantime. And when I was looking at the court papers, I couldn't believe what it actually said. Now, I am used to reading documents like this, but it's not my experience in that got me to see what this was about. It was my experience signing for operations for my own child. You know that when your child goes under the knife, you don't just sign for operation, you sign just in case something happens or for the next stage or whatever. So when I was reading this, I was absolutely amazed. Number one, it's in the best interest of the child to have a biopsy on the lump on her breast. Now, this is what social services were saying to Maggie. If you agree to this lump, to this biopsy, everything's going to be fine. Little did they admit that these paperwork had already gone into court for a mastectomy. So number two, is in the best interest of the child to attend an outpatient appointment for examination for the purpose of obtaining a second opinion regarding the surgery required. Maggie was actually on her way to a private clinic in London and they tried to stop it. So that was Maggie's independent second opinion. They were going crazy because Maggie would not give them the information of this new surgeon. They then filed a care order against Maggie. So she had the inherent jurisdiction over her daughter's breast against her, and then she had the interim care order where they wanted her two children to go into care on the 17th of December. Now, if you look here further down, then it says, it is in the best interest of the child to have a lumpectomy regarding the lump on her breast, or it's in the best interest of the child to have a mastectomy as clinically appropriate. So they were saying biopsy to Maggie, and like I said, she almost went ahead with it. And if you look there, when they fill in the court application, they ask about family mediation. They just said there, it's gone past mediation, well, because the mother's the problem, basically. So that's where we were at. They had the local authority, the social services had actually misled them, told them it was only a biopsy. But luckily, Maggie, like Chelsi, had that on record. So that particular social worker has failed to provide us with a GMC and NMC number for the medical advice that she was giving Maggie. Now we're going after her. So this was one of the statements from the doctors on the court case. There was never any medical evidence, okay? There was never any medical evidence. We've gone into court twice, and I think it was a week before before they pulled out on it. We finally had medical evidence for the scan and the biopsy, which were benign fibroadenoma.
It took us ages to get that as well, though, and they didn't want to give it.
There was no medical evidence there at all. They went into court saying this was a medical emergency, this was a life or death situation, her two children had to be removed for this. Now, if you look at these 3 paragraphs here, look, mastectomy, 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 mastectomy. This family had no idea that was going on. This family thought they were just pushing for a biopsy. Yes, they'd spoken about mastectomy in the clinic, but they had no idea they were taking them to court for a full mastectomy. And I just want to say this last bit here. As you can see, this is a statement from the consultant speaking about the child. I have little experience treating this age group. She's never treated a child. This is an adult service. They actively prevented this child having a paediatric service throughout. The only time they were going to bring a paediatric service in was an anaesthetist to put her to sleep. Over to you now.
Yeah, so this is why we ended up in the courtroom. Obviously, not only did Maggie have the NHS on her back trying to force her daughter into a mastectomy, she now had to deal with the local authority trying to take her children out of her care. But I went in with Maggie, and Paul was there as well. Yay! One of the last minute ones, he was there, he was the barrister, and we went in, and I have to say, I will give absolute credit to that judge. He was really good, and the first thing he actually said was he's taken the mastectomy straight off the table. He said, and your daughter was actually in the courtroom on it. The way he dealt with that situation, I think, was bang on. So straight away, he'd already had issues with the NHS, and before we'd even said anything, then he turned to social services and said, why have you even got an interim care order on the youngest daughter? Unless you can give me a valid excuse now, you withdraw it. So straight away, I was smiling with that. I knew we were on the right foot and we had a good judge. So we successfully argued then, they were trying to say, I think, Mag, as well, one day, because they wouldn't refer the medical notes over to the new consultant, and you're not supposed to do that, within medicine. If you get a new consultant, you just pass pass the histology over. That's how it works. In this case, they wouldn't do it. And the judge was saying to them, in which situation would you... and he was this, that sort of thing, and they did. So we went through that procedure, that process in that court. It was adjourned then, one in, we went back. Was it December? No, a couple of weeks later,
One was the 4th, one in,
and then we went back for the 16th. And
17th.
Yeah, that's right. Where your daughter had said, I found a consultant who said they could do all this. They could
Save my breast.
Remove the lump and save the breast. Obviously, you're going to choose that option. If you've got an option where you're going to lose your whole breast or you can save it, which one are you going to choose? It's a no-brainer. So having that new consultant was something that the NHS hadn't considered you would even do, I think, at that point. But it just goes to show the overreaching of not only the LA, but the NHS as well. And if they had lost that case, it would have had massive implications for everyone, because that would be like saying, it doesn't matter what you say. If we think that you need to have that surgery, whoever you are, then you're having it. It was really important. But thank God to Maggie, went in there, another brave mum. And what is the situation now, Mag? What's happened with the NHS and the local authority since?
Since it's all happened, she's had the surgery. They've taken the lump away, which she was still saying that she was forced to do because she'd done it for her sister because she didn't want to be removed from our care.
Bless her.
We got a lot of healing and repairing to do as a family, because it wasn't just, I haven't got just 2 daughters, I got 4. It's going to be hard now if any of my other daughters get any lumps or anything in their breasts. It's going to be a fear.
Trust issue, isn't it? Yeah.
She's doing good. So the scarring is minimal. After we were told that the whole breast was going to go, she's well pleased and she's glad it's over, and so am I. She's happier now. And her grades have, she's only been in school, I'd say 3 weeks since her operation. And we were in the hospital the morning after her op. We were due to come home and she was buzzing. I got her one of her grades and it said she had an A in her English.
Oh.
So she's now pushing herself, because she's in the last year. She's got to, push herself to get these grades that she needs to leave school and go to college and what she wants to do. But other than that, if it wasn't for these guys, being behind me and supporting me, I wouldn't have known any of this. And I had to do what I had to do, which was protect my child.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been following the PCP Wales for the last 5 years. We've been to their rallies and their protests, and I think there was a main reason why we were meant to be here. because we need to be there for everyone's kids, not just our own.
Yeah.
Keep a lookout for everyone's.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to thank them all, for the help. If I don't know where I would be today if I never, if they were taking my kids in my life. And I will do it all over again.
And one last thing as well. We meant to go to court, was it? 2 days ago.
Due in court on Thursday, and we had an email that the NHS and the local authority vacated, and they closed the case.
Yeah, but wait there. So they wanted to pull out about a week ago, but we wouldn't let them. So with where the child had her surgery was the consultant that we found, and so the NHS had to pay then for her to have her surgery under this consultant. This consultant has said that she would like the child to have a scan in 6 months and again in 12 months. Well, we weren't having local authority knocking the door in 6 months' time. So we wanted to make sure that these 2 scans were carried out in this hospital with this other consultant. We made sure the NHS Wales will pay for it. Then we said you can pull out.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Oh, that's
So guys, there's no break now. If we just have a quick 10 minutes, because I know we're running away on time. And then the final session, you'll have to prep with the PCPW girls, it's us.
Thanks, guys.